Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. It's a Wednesday night edition special lineup tonight, and we're in a different place. For those of you who look and say, well, that's not Buddy's studio, you're correct. I'm in Ocala, Florida at a friend's house and about to do the hour from here. Hope you'll come and join us. It's going to be a really good show. Among the people we have, Ali Peek Wilbur will be here. Chris Doering, number 28, will join the program and tell us his thoughts about what this team looks like after the scrimmage, after the orange and blue game. And of course, it means it's sweet and sour night with Ali and David Moulton all coming your way right here. So stay tuned. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is on the air. We'll be here a while. Come and join us and make your comments and see what you've got to offer on the show. Stand by.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm honored tonight to be in my good friend's home in Ocala. Carswell Ponder, he was my quarterback mentor in high school, and he's a big Gator fan. He is hosting myself and my wife these next couple of days. Glad to be here. Hope you enjoyed the orange and blue festivities. We have lots to talk about tonight. We hope to be able to hook up with our staff, our people here, our guests that we have on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. That would be Ali Peek Wilbur. David Moulton. We have a new Wi-Fi set up. We're hoping it's all clicking, and we ask you to join the program and give us your comments. Already you're online tonight. Tommy Seal, evening to you. Good to hear from you, my friend. And Greg Jones. Greg, thank you. All right, Alex, coming in just a moment, and I have a few things to say tonight. I am really proud of Billy Napier. I'm really proud. Finally, he revealed some of himself to us in the interview with Josh Pate. Did you see it? I really listened to the whole thing, and I said, now this is what I want to hear from my coach. And I also want to say, I've complained about Billy not being direct enough and not being more honest and forward in the past. And people say, well, you're mad because he hasn't given you an interview. No, I'm not. I'm not mad at all. I just want to know more about who he is. And in that interview with Josh Pate, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go and find it. I'm not sure if it's on 247 or whatever. But I would say that you're missing something if you don't hear him talking about some subjects that we've been wanting him to talk about for a long time. I don't know Josh Pate. I've seen some of his work. But I got to commend him for getting Billy Napier to actually talk and say some things instead of just making up toke speak. So congratulations. Give us more, Billy. We appreciate it very much, and we want to know more about you. Coming up in just a minute, Chris Doering will join us. He'll give us his take on the wide receivers in Gainesville. There's a couple of good ones, and still looking for one, I hear, in the portal. And also, news tonight, Graham Hall, who was on the show last night, breaking that guard Will Richard, will test the NBA draft waters, he announced today. So if he says if he returns to college his senior season, it will be in Florida. I think he comes back. What do you think? So anyway, let's go right to the Orange and Blue Room and talk to the First Lady of the Orange and Blue Room. Someone we have generous enough to be on with us. I don't know why she's considered to do that, but she has. That would be Ali Peek Wilbur. What's up, Ali?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in a new place. Can you see?
I see that. Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in Ocala. And I'm bouncing around while I wait for my house to open up and so I can get in it. And my friend Carswell Ponder is hosting tonight. He was my mentor as a quarterback in high school. Doesn't speak well for Carswell, given my records. But so he's here. And how are you doing? I see you had your podcast out today. Haven't had a chance to see it because I've been busy moving my stuff around. What's going on?
Yeah, I did an interview a few days ago with Barrett Sally, and this is just a part of that. We've talked about conference realignment. We're talking about Florida's upcoming schedule, what Billy Napier has to do to get a fourth year. Just, the off-season talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of off-season talk, always is on these shows. Did you catch any of the Josh Pate interview?
I did, actually. I just recorded a video for my channel that I think will come out tomorrow about it. But yeah, I watched it. I thought overall that it was great. And I think that these are the kind of things we've been talking about Billy needing to do for a long time. He came across as likable, right?
He did.
This is someone I want to go have a beer with. Like this sports game with. Like this, he seemed human. He seemed fun. He seemed laid back. He seemed easygoing. I can understand why recruits' families like having conversations with him. And, I think you'll agree with this probably that like bigger than what Napier said is the signal from the UAA that like, okay, maybe we're going to let people get to know Billy a little bit. And it's about time.
Whoever prompted him to do that, I don't think it was Rick Hurtado. Maybe it was. Kudos to them because really it's kind of what some of us have been saying for a while. Just show us who you are a little bit. We want to like you. We understand the challenge. We understand that it's tough. But we would like to know more about who you are from the very get-go when I met Billy. And I'm not saying he's me. He doesn't. But he'd be better off if he interviewed with me and you because we bring out the best in him. But anyway, I remember the very first day I was there. I couldn't wait to get to take 2 cents in with him. Because I'm not bragging, but Ali, I've had good relationships with head coaches in Florida for a lot of years. Yeah. And so I'm a pretty good guy, and I'm honest and fair and whatever. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get to know him, maybe I won't. So I called him off to the side for 2 seconds, and I said something to him about his kids being well-behaved. And I said to him, out of curiosity, and I knew he was a believer, what scripture is your favorite, right? I mean, we know Tim Tebow would tell you that in a heartbeat. Yeah. And he said, I know a lot of them. He said, don't you have one? He said, no. He didn't really want to reveal that. Okay, that's fine with me. But I thought, well, okay, that's an unusual response. And 3 or 4 other times when I tried, not hard, to engage him. I've never called him. I've never texted him. I've never emailed him to ask for permission. He just didn't seem like he was interested, not just in me, but in most people. He doesn't want to have any kind of interpersonal relationship. Okay, I get it now. Fine. But if he does more things like this, he endears himself to everyone.
Yes, you got to get that, like you're stocking up credits, essentially, goodwill that you earn from people liking who you are off the field. And I don't know who set this up, but I will tell you, I think that there was probably a lot of pressure for them to do it because he's got Josh Pate's doing Mario Cristobal tomorrow. He was over at UCF today. He's got Napier. He's getting Norvell. So, like, if he was the only coach in the state of Florida who didn't sit down with him, I think that probably would have looked bad. So I'm sure there was some pressure to do that. But I also think we are seeing this new leaf that has been turned over the last couple of weeks and involves Florida Victorious. I think the fact that Scott Strickland has come out and publicly endorsed them. Napier had a tweet, I want to say like yesterday maybe, that just full on praising Florida Victorious for their efforts at the spring game. The fact that the spring game happened and the access happened the way that it did. I mean, and then you have this Josh Pate interview, you've got what Doering's doing coming up. Like, I think they should have done this 3 years ago.
Exactly.
I think that maybe that light bulb has gone off. And, is it too late? I don't know. We'll find out. But I guess better late than never, right?
Exactly. And I hope there's no time here because, I mean, you've been around. You know people. You have relationships with powerful boosters, whatever. Whatever. And I know a few people here and there. And I think we all want to know him better. I want to know what he's about. But one of the things, by the way, I don't know Josh Pate. I don't really know much about him other than I've seen some of his interviews. I know who he is really. but he's smart and he handled an interview really well. And the fact that he was willing to do this with Josh leads me to wonder, why wouldn't he pick out 2 or 3 other people and do some one-on-ones? Because that brings out the Billy Napier that we want to know about. And kudos to Josh Pate for not overplaying it, for handling it well and getting him to answer questions like, are you going to call plays? He answered direct. How many times have we asked that question to get a non-answer, right?
A non-answer. And the thing about, and again, I really like Josh Pate. I think he does great work, but I think that it would be really beneficial to do it with a few UF affiliated people, because we all know the type of question that the fan base wants asked. And somebody that is a national reporter is going to have a harder time having their finger on the pulse of a fan base, right? Like, it's not his fan base. Right. But it is our fan base. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it was great that he got a straight answer. And I've seen some people have maybe a little bit of issue or seem surprised at him saying he was calling plays. I don't know about you, but that was not surprising. I feel like he's told us essentially that he's going to be the guy.
But he appointed an offensive coordinator guy.
He did.
And so what does that mean? I mean, it's mixed bag.
From what I got from what he said, and maybe you took it differently than I did, but and again, I think he could have said this part better. But it sounded like he was saying is he thinks he's going to be able to focus more on calling plays this year than the previous 2 years, because he was building the foundation as well as calling plays the first year. And now he thinks the foundation's laid so he can focus more on that. He also hired that guy from Texas A&M that's kind of like a general manager.
Yeah.
He's got Ron Roberts, who's now coaching the coaches. He's got another Joe Houston came over to help with special teams. So like maybe some of his day-to-day stuff has been taken off his plate. And so therefore he can focus a little bit more on play calling and if that's the case, then good. And the offense wasn't an issue last year. I think that you sometimes struggle as the CEO when you're looking at something so small as the play calling, right? And so then just something suffers. There's too many hands.
He did say at the end of the interview, I might mark it down. He said, "I think we're doing a lot better job on roster management. We're familiar with the kids we got playing here. That will allow us now to lead from the strength. That we now can focus on other things besides the fact that, what's going to be our roster." He feels very confident that he's got a good roster. And you know what? I looked it over, and I'm not one to ask, but based on what little knowledge I have, their first 22 look really good on both sides. I mean, I think there's some players there. And, I mean, hey, we saw one emerge the other day. How about the guy? I call him Sammy Ball, because his name is Ball. But boy, I'm telling you, what a guy. My gosh.
I don't know how they keep him off the field.
I don't either.
He was so good. A major bright spot for me in the spring. And I thought the spring game was great. I thought that there was some intensity from both sidelines, which is not something I necessarily expected to see. I felt like fans were 100% into it, which was also something I didn't necessarily expect to see. I saw some tempers flaring on the sidelines, which I love because it means they're fully bought in.
Yeah.
I really did. I was impressed, right?
Yeah.
It left me thinking, okay, maybe they will be better. Now, 10 men on the field for special teams.
Yeah, how about that?
Not cool. I don't know if you how much you paid attention to what Napier said about special teams in the Pate interview, but that is probably the only part of the whole interview that was very frustrating to me.
What did he say exactly, Ali? I can't remember.
So he said, Pate said, obviously you had special team struggles. How are you going to address those next year? And he said, basically, I know we had some issues. I know we had 10 men on the field and 2 guys on the jersey number and the jump.
He did say that. He did own up to that. He did.
He said that, but then he said, but if you look at our efficiency numbers, we actually were top 25 special teams.
So what?
He said, what else did he say? He said, so, there's perception and then there's reality. My pushback is this. 90% of all of Florida's special teams mistakes don't count in those efficiency stats. So that's literally like, because those plays didn't happen essentially on paper. So what he told us in coach speak is, well, if you remove all the times we messed up, we're actually a pretty darn good special teams unit.
Yeah.
That was very frustrating to me. I would have preferred he say, I tell our guys all the time, control the things you can control. We had some egregious errors where we messed up the controllable. And even though we have a great punter and a great field goal kicker, and I think we did some really great things on special teams last year, I understand that not controlling the controllable was frustrating for fans. We've been working on it this offseason, and it's a priority for us.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, that's all you have to say.
Yeah. Our very keen listener and viewer and loyal fan, David Arnoff, Dr. David Arnoff from up in my part of the country and the Panhandle, points out, he said in that interview, he claimed a top 10 special teams play. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was top 25, but maybe he said top 10. But he's talking about efficiency rating, which, again, who cares about stats if you can
really
say 3 special teams mistakes potentially cost us 2 wins?
Yeah.
I don't care what your efficiency ratings are. But those special team screw-ups don't count in that stat. So that's just, and I wish Pate had pushed back on that a little bit because, and I know it's easy to say when we listen back, you should have pushed back. It's when it happens, in real time, but that's a cop-out. That is, and he also said the other part of it that was frustrating was he said, and with the 2 guys in the same number, I mean, we had 2 freshmen on the field. It was their first game, and that's blaming them.
Yeah.
Not their fault. Whatever adult coach that should have been standing there with a clipboard saying, oh, shoot, on our first string, we have 2 number 3s. Let's switch one out. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, if Wilson hadn't traded his number from 23 to 3, there would have been 2 23s.
Right. That's right.
So, that's, and you can't tell me you didn't know who was on your first string well before game day.
Right.
That wasn't late into the game when you're playing your 4 stringers and you're trying to get everybody playing time and you miss that. That happened at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. That was your first string. When that lineup was set, 4 days beforehand, how did somebody not catch that? That's on a coach. And to blame a freshman player rubs me the wrong way.
Too late in the game now to start blaming people like that. And, and by the way, that David said that interview at 9:50, he says, when he talked about top 10. What you're talking about is true. It's like saying, well, Chris Doering dropped 5 balls today, but he caught that one good one. Right. You can't, it doesn't work that way. So, so Ali Peek Wilbur, she does a terrific podcast. You should be listening to her. Everybody else is. It's called A Peek Inside the Gators. It's heard multiple times weekly. She has a lot of great guests. Barrett Salih, I think, right now. So, we get great guests on these programs, these podcasts, and we get the great Chris Doering too every now and then. He allows us to share to pick his brain, get knowledge. Like I said, though, Doering, I know he likes the wide receivers, but I can't wait to see what he saw in the game and what he feels like this team looks like, because everybody says they're one more receiver short, and you saw the names today, maybe. A couple of kids, one from Colorado State and another one from I forget where. They said they were talking to both those. Let's see if Doering knows anything. He's really tied in that kind of stuff. He joins the program. Chris Doering.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
We're doing great. I'm at the home tonight of a man who's a good friend of mine, was my mentor as a quarterback at Ocala High School, who was a huge Chris Doering fan. And he said to me 20 years ago or more, you need to write a book about Chris Doering. He did. Carswell, say hi. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
That's great. He's a huge fan of yours. So I want to get
it. You and I have been threatening to do that for.
We have. Yes, we have.
Would you do that? Yeah. I want to read that.
Yeah, let's do it, Chris. Come on, man.
Let's go.
A lot of things.
Now's a good time of year. I'm done with all my spring obligations.
Okay.
Going till media day, so I'm ready.
All right, what are you doing in July?
July we get SEC media days going in the middle of the month.
I know,
but,
but not all month.
Yeah, not all month.
Because my wife's taking me up to the mountains.
July?
My wife's taking me to the mountains in July. I'm thinking it's a perfect time for you to come by and sit down and talk about a book. So
Come to the mountains,
North Carolina.
Right.
North Carolina. Yeah. Anyway, Chris, you saw the game. I know you had some takeaways. I haven't had a chance to see them all. Ali and I had a good conversation about the interview that Billy did with Josh Pate, which we loved, by the way. Kudos for made that happen. And so, first of all, your thoughts about what you saw in the game and what the vibe was that you felt at the game.
Yeah. I didn't see the Pate interview, but I'll say this. I thought Florida's program as a whole did a really nice job opening up and being transparent and letting people see the inside. I was disappointed. I don't know if you guys saw the A-Day game I did the Saturday before in Auburn, but I did the majority of the scrimmage from down on the field with Coach Freeze, and Coach Napier was open to doing that. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it for technical reasons, but I thought I spent practice out there with the team on Tuesday and Thursday leading up to the game. Talked to Coach Napier, talked to Coach Armstrong, and talked to Rob Sale as well as Graham Mertz on Friday before the game. I got a totally different feeling leaving than I think I had going in. And obviously, it's easy for me to suspend my disbelief when it comes to Florida football. I want Florida to be good. But I think the thing that I took away is it's the old April showers bring May flowers. Well, last year's growing pains are going to lead to much more experienced players. I feel in talking with Austin Armstrong, what they went through last year with having so many young guys. I think 25% of the defensive snaps last year were taken by true freshmen. So it's not a recipe for winning. It's a difficult thing to go through when you have young guys out there and you don't have the depth you need. You look at the close games that Florida had in the fourth quarter last year and let get away. A lot of that has to do with running out of gas. So I think they did some nice things in terms of adding in the transfer portal. The things that they said they were looking for were leadership and experience, and they did that particularly in the secondary. I thought it was nice to see some guys kind of step up. Aiden Mizell being one of those guys. He did it in the game. He did it on Thursday when I was there at practice. Hopefully when Andy Jean returns, he can kind of take that step forward too.
Is he hurt, by the way, Jean?
I imagine so. He didn't play, and I think that's probably the reason. But, in answering your question earlier, I think Florida's interested in signing two guys in the transfer portal at the wide receiver position. You know how much I love Gainesville guys, particularly guys that I've watched grow up. So watching Khalil turn into the receiver he's turned into has been quite fun for me. And Spirito too, man. It's been fun watching him as a walk-on do as well. But I really believe that they want to add a little bit more depth at the receiver spot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them sign two guys in the portal.
Yeah. They lost one. Nunnery has gone to the portal. That means they're down to 85, which is where their roster needs to be. But I don't think they're done there. We'll see how that works out. I want to get back to one thing, and David Moulton's waiting in the orange and blue room. We'll get to him in a second, David. Hang on. I want to get back to, Alex, something we started to talk about earlier, about the fact that they had a real game. Now, we don't expect them to have full-on scrimmage, but when you look at what Napier did, with everything you put on there, and granted, it wasn't really tackle football, but we get it. But look what they did at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He made a mockery. I mean, look, I understand that you don't want to get your players hurt and it want to be fun, but I mean, I'm sorry, that's a little over the line. They had basically a tailgate party on the field. And I don't know, Ali, we didn't talk about that, but give props to Billy Napier for at least keeping it football.
Well, I think fans needed to see that. I think that what UF put on was important for this fan base, and maybe Ole Miss's fan base is in a different position. I had somebody tell me, which this is probably a conspiracy theory, that Lane didn't want to give any of his guys that he filmed, or if they entered the transfer portal, there'd be nothing on them. But I don't know. I also think it fits Lane's personality, right? Like he's throwing one big party. But I'm glad that we did not. I'm glad we saw a real game-ish. And I think that the position that Napier's in with fans, that would have been the wrong move to do anything but what he did.
Chris, are you hearing the same thing about the coaches protecting their rosters, not wanting to give out their 3D because they don't want to get picked off?
Well, I know they don't want to put their 3D just because, they don't want guys to see that they're maybe not where they thought they were.
Might
So
be going transferring, yeah.
Yeah, but I going back to kind of what Ali was talking about there, I want to expound on that a little bit. Like, I've been surprised as I've gone around the league this year, just how much the spring games have been de-emphasized. And there's only 15 days of spring practice. So you're telling me you're going to use one of those days to play flag football or have a tug of war or whatever it is. Like, I respect whatever he wants to do, but I think programs are in different places and need different things at different times. And certainly, to agree with Ali, like, Florida needed to have a day like this. They needed to get out there. But I can tell you, as a player, some of my most important snaps I took were as a redshirt freshman in the spring game,
right,
and as a redshirt sophomore in the spring game. Those things that I did on the field there allowed me not only to have confidence that I could do it, but the coaches could have confidence. Like, putting players in a position to replicate a game, going in the stadium with fans in the crowd, putting the game uniforms on, hitting one another, like, those are important things when you're a young football team. And I think Florida needed to have that just to be able to see who they could trust heading into next year. So I really don't understand. You only get 15 days out there on the practice field. Wasting one of those, regardless of where your program is kind of hard for me to believe.
But
I think in addition to that, Chris is a walk-on that proved himself and ended up having a huge career. But there's also walk-ons who spring games are the only time they'll see the field in their entire 4 or 5 years that they spend at that university. But that program also needs those walk-ons to stay, because that's how they, get their first, second, third string guys ready to be able to play on Saturdays. So in a way, it kind of takes away from the guys that don't get those moments in the fall. And I don't love it from that aspect either.
Good point.
It's a great point about guys helping themselves, and this kid Baugh, who I just loved what I saw, and when I heard Billy talk about it, what he could do. He's played safety, he's played linebacker, he can run the route tree. He's 6'2", 238, Ali.
Yeah.
And you can tell just by the way he toted the rock. This guy's he can play. I mean, I know we didn't see a lot of defense, but to me, I don't know what you saw of him, Chris, but I thought this kid has got to be on the field.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I think Florida's very deep at the running back spot, and that's kind of odd to say given the fact that they lost Trevor Etienne in the transfer portal back at the end of the season. So, Daniels is a kid that is the Gatorade Player of the Year in Mississippi. So they've got some good young talent there. I think that's the key across the board is you got a lot of really young, talented guys. The key is, can you develop them? And more importantly, can you keep them? And so I think that's going to be the challenge for every coach in this transfer portal NIL era. But one thing I do trust is Florida's ability to identify talent. They've done it through the transfer portal. They did it with Ricky Pearsall. They did it with Graham Mertz. I think they've done it with some good young players to the high school ranks as well. So I think I feel good about what they've done to upgrade the overall talent, speed, and length of the team.
Great point, Ali. Great point. And exactly, we'll bring Mr. Moulton in there. Looks like he's doing his math homework. I'm not sure. And say, what is the spring game? What is it supposed to be? What's the purpose of it? And what are you trying to achieve? Mr. Moulton, David, good evening to you. Good to see you there. And say good evening to our fellow co-host here.
Chris and Ali, I've enjoyed listening to you for the last 10 or so minutes. Listen, I'm going to come across as a curmudgeon. You know where I am with Gators football. The only thing to me that counts about spring football is injuries. I'm very interested to see if they lose anybody in the portal and who it is they pick up. I still think they need more talent. I like where they are at quarterback. I believe 5th play of the spring game, they had another penalty, right?
10 men on the field.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, let me tell you, if this year doesn't get off to a good start, I can tell you exactly how all the stories are going to read. Well, we should have known this was coming. 5th play of the spring game, they still can't count to 11. I mean, listen.
Mistakes last year, we wouldn't care about a mistake in the spring game. We only notice or care because of the special teams errors before. I mean, in theory, the spring's the time to learn, right? And the time to make sure you get it right so you don't make those mistakes in the fall. It's just frustrating for fans because we've seen this story last year.
And I'll say I didn't love the clock management at the end too. It was very reminiscent of what we saw last year against Arkansas as well. So that was a little frustrating too.
And once again, you could see where fans could go, who wanted Billy to take a few more things off his plate, and now it's spring game, and it's like, really? I mean, we're still doing this crap. I mean, that I think you can understand why if a fan comes to that conclusion. I think they're more talented. Thank goodness they're more experienced. I love their quarterback situation. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. They can get off to a good start. The first half of their schedule, they got a bunch of winnable games. I hope they bring in more talent. They need it. And you know me, buddy. Between now and August 31st, the only thing I'm paying attention to is the injuries. And
I know you. We know you. That's why we call you sour.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. 3 straight.
I didn't name you that.
No. You want to wear? No, you want to do the pom poms? That's fine. 3 straight losing seasons.
You see me doing pom poms? I'm not doing pom poms.
Losing seasons. This is Florida football.
This is what the people on this program named you and Ali. Sweet and sour. Not me. That's what they call you, sweet and sour.
Can you tell me?
I didn't. Not my fault.
No. First off, I just asked a single question, and I'll ask it of all 3 of you.
Yeah.
Besides your love for the helmets they are wearing.
Yeah, I don't like their helmets that much, but go ahead. You mean team? Okay.
Will you shut up?
The host of the show gets to know. Shut up.
I asked for one question.
Go ahead.
Besides the 3 of yours love for their helmets that they're wearing, what has this football program done in the last 3 years to earn them a single benefit of the doubt? It's a very simple question. What have they done for 3 years that earns them a single benefit of the doubt?
All right, go ahead, Chris.
Besides your love and admiration for the helmet.
You and Ali tackle that one. I'm not going to say it.
No, I agree. I agree with David. I mean, I think that's why this is such an important year. And I don't really care necessarily about wins and losses. I care about more the aesthetics of how they look. Is it more organized? Do they have more attention to detail? Are they able to be more competitive? Do they look more similar to the teams on the other side of the line of scrimmage? It will be a tough schedule, but I think after talking with Coach Napier, he's welcoming the schedule. He feels like it's a very similar to what they played last year, and they're better suited to handle it this year. So I do think that there needs to be some show me aspect to it. And I'm with you, David. I don't think there's been a ton of equity earned to this point, but I'm willing to, again, suspend the disbelief one more year.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too. Have they done anything the last 3 years to make us believe that this year is going to be different? No. I want it to be different. I want him to succeed. I like him as a person. I like a lot of these players personally, but it's a show me year. And I thought the spring game was great. I think it's what the fan base needed at the moment, but they don't need anything more than they need wins. And between now and August, that's all they're going to talk about is what they want to see happen on the field in August.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to pass. I'll accept what both of you guys said as being accurate. And, I'm with you. I want to see the improvement as well. I just think I do want to learn more about the program and learn out what's going on inside the program. As a former reporter, it's very frustrating when you can't learn what is going on. And I will say one of the things I learned is that when Billy Napier wants to sit down with somebody and reveal some of himself, Josh Pate brought that out. None of the rest of us could do it with that interview.
Buddy, I don't know if did you hear about him being at the quarterback club here in Gainesville a couple Tuesdays ago?
No, I didn't hear about it, no.
Supposedly, I wasn't there, but I heard it was the most transparent, honest, long conversation that they had heard from any coach, including talking to Napier in the past. So maybe that's kind of the direction that he's taking, is trying to reveal a little bit more of what's going on in the program and engaging the fans in that way.
And that'll be interesting to see if it's too little too late or not, because those are the things that I think we have been clamoring for the last 3 years. Give us something so that when the cards are down, we want to root for you. Right. And you've earned this kind of equity, just like you were, talking about, but not on the field equity, just personal we relate to him. We know about him. We cheer for him. We want him to win. And at this point, it doesn't really feel like a whole lot of people know him. But this interview was great. I hope whoever has decided that we need a PR makeover gets listened to more, because they're accurate.
There's the words you haven't heard very often, PR. David, your thoughts about that?
Well, I just wonder if in the 2020s, Mike Krzyzewski had 3 really rough years. And I'm not saying Billy Napier is going to be an all-time great, but you know what I'm getting at here. It took Frank Beamer 6 years to get it going in Blacksburg. I mean, Billy inherited a rough situation. It was worse, the old iceberg. It was worse below the surface than I think a lot of us realized. And his AD did him no favors with the schedule he's had to play now for his first 3 years. And, I just hope he can get to 2025. I really do. I'm with Chris, just even if the wins and losses are not much better, can you just look better? All the stuff that Ali was pounding the table about last year, can you just eliminate those mistakes? Make them beat you this year instead of the 3 games that you threw away last year. Make them beat you this year. That would be an improvement.
One of the things I loved about the interview with Pate, and I don't really know him, he did a masterful job on this. The first question I heard, I'm not sure what it was in the interview, was about how things are going, how things are looking, and how the program is progressing, and what the attitude is. And Billy tried to flip it on Pate, and he said, "Well, I don't know. You're here. You've been here. What do you think?" And he had a brilliant answer. He said, "Well, what I think is that what I hear going on in here, what I see going in here, is really not what they're talking about out there. That's a perception in here, but it's not translating to the people out there." And that's exactly right. He is not really good. How many times have we said, Ali, I wish someone, and David, wish someone would take the mantle and tell us about what is Florida football, what are you trying to do? The way, and I hate to bring up his name, Spurrier would do, it would reveal to you what he's trying to sell. And I think we saw some of that, and so that could be helpful. All right, guys, what is the spring game supposed to be? Chris, if you were the head coach, what would you try to do in the spring game to accomplish, other than getting a dress rehearsal, getting guys lined up, giving the game atmosphere? What do you want that to be?
Yeah, I think it should be a celebration. This is a time of year where hope literally springs eternal for every program, and give the fans something to be excited about. I thought the signing class, DJ Lagway, even though they lost a little of the momentum down the stretch, I still think getting Lagway and McCray were big gets for Florida, and those guys are watching them in practice. They are for real difference makers. They got leadership, and I think it gives you a reason to be excited when you hear about them. So for fans, they get a chance to actually see them, put the uniform on, be in the stadium, and celebrate. And being in Gainesville Saturday was amazing, right? You got the football game, you got Florida relays, you got baseball going on, you got perfect weather. Like, that's the way it should be, and I think it's a great selling point for the future recruits as well. So it's a little bit of a preseason party, and
Exactly.
a reason to kind of have some optimism.
Yeah. Chris, I told you I wouldn't keep you long. I know you got things to do. Thanks for coming on the program tonight, and we'll catch up to you down the line, all right?
Thanks, buddy. See you, David.
Let's get that book written, all right?
Let's do it, man.
All right, see you. All right, so David, you go next. You're the head coach. You're going to put a spring game. What are you trying to accomplish, and what's your purpose?
Well, I want to play a game, though. I do think it's important to play something that resembles a game. If I was an Ole Miss fan, and I would be bothered. It's like, really, you wasted my time and my money for this. I want to see football. I want to see the ones against the ones, the twos against the twos. Yeah. And, I'd even be willing to turn the spring game into bringing in FAMU, okay, and actually playing. But I want to see football in a spring game.
I'm with you on that. I even thought about the idea of, crazy as it may sound, the old high school football jamborees, when they bring in 3 other teams and each play a quarter or something, to get some real active. But coaches would never go to it because they don't want, number one, to reveal their talent to other people, or they want to get guys hurt. There's so much money at stake. So I'm with you. I like real football, David, and you too, Ali, right?
Yeah. I mean, I thought they did exactly what Florida needed to do for this spring game. I thought that there was really good energy. I think they did a good job selling it to the players. We have had spring games in years past, over the last 10 years, that felt very much like a practice, right? And when even to the point where they'd say, like, where they'd stop the clock and they'd run the same play again. And I get that spring is about practice, but that's not what fans want to see. Fans want to feel it like a game. And I mean, I thought it was hysterical. Our band at one point played "Move Back, You Suck" towards our own team, you know? But that's the kind of thing the fans want. They played "Don't Pack Down." They played "We Are the Boys." I mean, it all happened like a game. And there's just so many reasons why that's important. It's important for your young players. It's important for your fans that, you know, needed that little bit of juice to get them till August. There's fans that take their kids to the spring game because it's the only game that they can afford to take them to. I think that is an important aspect of all of this. All those kids in the stands are future lifelong Gators. They're future boosters. They're future players. They're making it a good environment for them is important too. And if I'm a coach, I want to know who is my talented guys that aren't my 5 stars that are coming in with all the fanfare and accolades. Like who is going to bring it when the pads are on?
Some people are just gamers. Okay, they're better in games than they are in practice. It's another reason why I want to play a game. If that's the only chance I have for 8 months. Okay, and I want to see it. The one thing I will say, you know, I'm not trying to buy into any hype. I'm done with Gator football hype. They got to prove it. Will say the product so much better this spring than last spring. I mean, I will say that so much better this spring than last spring. And maybe that's, you know, the quarterback, you know, a difference. Because I mean, last year the product was alarming.
Yeah.
And this year it's like, oh, okay, I can see the potential here.
Yeah.
I just let me say this program brought to you in part by Titan MRI. If you need have an MRI, it's good news for you in the North Central Florida area. Their offices in Gainesville will allow you to come in and make an appointment after hours or the weekends to accommodate you. They're all about customer service and your comfort and dealing with your own claustrophobia, whatever. And they also want you to know if you don't have insurance, they'll take cash or card, and it's not that expensive. Check them out. Telephone number right there, 352-353-7465, TitanMRI.com. All right. Guys, I don't know about you. I'm overwhelmed with information and rules. I don't know jack. We saw the transfer information about the people in the portal, and I'm reading things. This is Nick Delatorre posted today. I didn't know this. Did you know it? Athletes can transfer as often as they want to, and now
Just happened.
I mean, be immediately eligible. Council changes transfer rules, permits immediate eligibility for transfers, academically eligible and in good standing at a previous school, and meet progress toward degree requirements. So, no final decision till the meeting ends tomorrow, but the board ratified, D1 board ratified this. They can now, David, transfer as often as they want to and immediately.
About the only limitation that's on an athlete right now is that you can't, in the middle of a season, transfer from team A to team B and play in that season for team B. That is literally the only restriction left on a college athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Go ahead.
How do you curb the craziness that's going on when now there is zero penalty? I mean, we've talked on here a bajillion times. Transfer once, transfer in your grad student. You get another pass if you happen to have your head coach take a job. That would help control this. This just made it worse. But I think they did it because they're afraid of being sued by these athletes and by these states who are now involved in the NCAA's business too.
Well, didn't Virginia today basically override the NCAA? Virginia has now allowed it so that the schools in the state of Virginia can pay the players the quote NIL, which let's face it, it's pay for play.
I didn't know that either.
It doesn't have to go through set up a separate organization. The Virginia legislature today said, no, the Cavaliers and the Hokies and what have you, no, they could just pay them directly right through the athletic department.
Yep.
Which
we're all for the player.
Which we all know that's where it's going. And I think we've all actually agreed it's where it should go. I mean, why should the boosters and the fans
want to see it happen, right?
keep financing this? How about the people getting the TV money? How about if they finance this?
Right. That's what should happen.
In reality, they are. They're going to have to. If the schools start paying them, they are. So, and they should. You're right. They should pay them.
I mean, I know Brian Kelly's taking a lot of heat for his comment a handful of days ago about, we need a salary cap, but we talked about this a couple of episodes ago. The three of us were talking about how are they going to contain costs. Yeah. You can't have what happened, and it's not just at Alabama, but it's happening everywhere, where you agree to pay somebody X amount of money, and they come in at the end of the year and they go, I want a raise. Now, if it's contractually negotiated and that cornerback's going to make $400,000 as a freshman, $500,000 as a sophomore, et cetera, then you work it into your salary cap. But all these coaches now, I mean, a kid has a good year, he comes in, he wants a raise. Well, that sounds like employer-employee to me, right?
Yeah.
It does, yes, for sure. David, I don't want to keep you past your bedtime now. If you got to go, let me.
I'm fired up now, buddy.
Okay,
I'm yelling at you.
All right, I just want to make sure I don't keep you too late. And I want to get back to the spring game a little bit. And I like what you said, David. You put it well. What we saw this year was better than what we saw last year. And I know people say you can't possibly tell anything about the players. I don't agree with that. I'm not a genius, but I'd have to be blind not to see what DJ Lagway could be. My goodness. If you've ever seen a guy run a break on a fast break as a point guard down the court, you don't need a map to understand that. This kid has got every skill. I mean, he can improve things, his footwork, whatever. But you know what he's got great about him? In addition to the fact he got a lightning quick release. He's pretty strong. He's quick. He's a terrific ball handler. He runs play fakes. He just looks like a ball player, and he leads his team out of the huddle with some kind of authority. He just looks like the guy to me. And I wanted to see him on the hoof, and I did. And I'm telling you, I'm not predicting he's necessarily going to play that much this year. He shouldn't. But I think, and I'm going to say this now, I'm talking about a guy that not only could be good, he could be great. Now, you might laugh at me. I truly believe that. He could be great.
I mean, he's going to be great somewhere. We'll just have to see whether or not it's at Florida because if Billy Napier is gone, DJ Lagway will be gone. And Gator fans should keep that in mind as they're, rooting against him or whatever. They should want Billy Napier to be successful in part because we want DJ Lagway to stay a Gator. But he was really impressive. And you think about the fact that he actually should be getting ready for his prom and his graduation instead of playing in the spring game. I think it makes it even more impressive. And did you see how mad he was at the very end of that game? He knew his team was getting screwed and he knew he was getting hot dogs and Jordans. He was angry about it. And you love to see that competitive spirit. And he's got a lot of talent.
Yep. And this should come to Billy Napier's defense. I do a lot of prep work for the draft. And there are a lot of like NFL 300 lists. There's like 2 Gators on it. I mean, the only Gator who I think is going to be drafted before Saturday is Pearsall. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if he'll be one of the top 10 wide receivers taken because this is an incredibly rich wide receiver class. But I mean, I think, in terms of Ali, you're talking about his talent. Florida has a talent train right now. They do. They're playing catch up. Okay. Yeah. And that's another reason why Lagway stands out, because it's like, oh my goodness, we don't have people at other positions who look like this.
Yeah.
And that's, it's going to take a little more time. It just is. And that's why him doing a terrific job with signing days, that's great. But, he's got to crush the portal. Mm-hmm. And every opportunity that it opens, he's got to crush it. Like, I hope he crushes it here in the next couple of weeks.
I just got a text message while we were sitting here from one of the people that I talk to pretty regularly about things behind the scenes. And they were saying, we need some more guys to hit the portal or we don't have room.
Right. 85 rushers. We got 85 on the roster.
Scholarships right now, and they want 2 or 3 wide receivers. They would like an edge, wide offensive linemen, but they've got to have the space to bring them in. It's an interesting problem to have, because you're right now rooting for guys to decide to enter the portal, but the fact that everybody likes where they are, it's not a bad problem to have either.
Yeah, it's funny. Roster management, just like the NFL, David.
Right. I mean, Ali, the good news is, wow, it must be a nice place to be, and which it should be. Obviously, it's Florida. Right. All right. The players should want to stay there.
Bought in, right? That's
right. But the problem is that we all agree the 85 they have right now is not enough talent.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, listen, I understand you're happy here, and we really think you're a nice person, but I got to do better than you.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got to do better than you and you and you and you and you and you and you. So can I offer you, South Florida? Can I offer you FAU? Is there something I can offer you?
Right.
Because I need you to leave.
Right.
Well, do you think they'll be asking people to leave, Ali?
I mean, I think they're going to have to. I mean, that's part of this new era in college football that we are in. It's not me, it's you kind of conversation that has to happen. Hey, we like you, but we like somebody else a little bit more.
So how do you have that conversation? Look, you can stay here and whatever, but you're not going to play.
Exactly
and we're not going to. We won't take your scholarship away, but I think you'd be better off going somewhere you can play, get a chance to maybe big play enough and talk them into leaving, right?
Yeah, essentially you say, listen, if you have aspirations at the next level, you're not going to play here, so you're not going to get filmed here. So make it pretty impossible for that next step to happen. But we can help you land at a place where you will see the field and you will potentially get film and you can continue on in this journey. But we don't realistically see that being here. But that's a hard conversation. That's not something.
It is.
Conversations were happening prior to NIL, but they were not happening on the scale that they have to happen now.
Well, and also the other danger, like fans were uncomfortable when we brought up this topic previously. It's like, wow, that's unfair to the player. You offer him a scholarship, you should honor the scholarship. Well, now you are paying cold hard cash.
And these are all renewable scholarships too.
And they are. They are, but I think fans would like.
The agreement is you get 4 years when you sign at the university, but yeah, we are paying them. So if you're not getting production out of, you're not earning your salary. Essentially, is what we're saying, and that's not the spirit of NIL, but that's the reality of NIL.
Right. Like, what if Titan MRI, says to the Gator football program, "I'll pay for an offensive lineman," and it turns out they're paying for the left guard. Well, what if the left guard's not good? Titan MRI is going to be like,
I want to change.
I want to pay for somebody better, for goodness sakes. Why am I paying?
True.
I would never pay for him. I wouldn't hire him. Why did you guys hire him?
That's very true, David. You're right. All right. So listen, guys, I'm going to give you this little last one to chew on, and I'm going to just do a quick read on a spot. But basketball, where are we now with what's happened to the basketball program? Today, they look like they might lose another player to the portal, and we know what's going to happen. And these guys can go ahead and actually do this, Sally, and say I'm going to go out for the draft, but if I come back, I'll play for the Gators, and they leave the back door open. This is what's happening now in basketball. It seems like And I wonder what the situation. Now they got a guy today. I don't follow these guys like you do, Ali. 4-star small forward Alex Lloyd, supposed to be a top 50 guy and ranked 51st overall. What do you know about him?
I don't know a whole lot. I know he's a guy that was a really hot name in the transfer portal, and supposedly playing for Florida is something that was a dream of his. So great, perfect. Let's go. He is, like you said, a guard. I think Todd Golden is a great recruiter, and the Gators kind of collapsed on the end there last season, but they were ahead of pace a lot of the year, right? I think a little bit better than we thought they were going to be for most of the year, kind of playing on, house money towards the end of the SEC tournament. Again, I think they were a little bit of a disappointment in the NCAA tournament, but he's got things moving in the right direction. He is a really good recruiter. And in terms of, entering into the draft or coming back, I prefer that to the transfer portal, see what your situation could potentially be in the NBA. He's going to get paid a lot more money in the NBA than he is in college. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, but that's the case for this particular situation. So let him see if the dream can start now. And if not, he'll come back and wear the orange and blue. Like that situation doesn't really rub me the wrong way. I'm okay with that.
All right, I'm going to give you this real fast. Clinical trials exist to bring new therapies to the public safely, and clinical trials would not exist without the commitment of volunteers. If you decide to participate in the one they've got going on right now at WinStar, you may receive study-related medications and procedures at no charge to you or your insurance, gaining access to new investigational medications or devices that are not otherwise available, and receive compensation. Check them out at WinStar.com or .net, and find out more about WinStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. David, what's your perception from 10,000 feet above about the basketball program? You traveled in a few different circles than we do.
Ali, I thought was 100% accurate. First off, I think he's a terrific coach and is a great hire. The other thing is to show you how difficult it is right now to run a program year to year. I mean, Nate Oates at Alabama just took Bama to a Final Four. They'd never been there before. Alabama's NIL situation is better than Florida's, one of the best in the SEC. And Nate just lost 3 starters to the transfer portal. I mean, seriously, you're winning. You're playing an entertaining style of ball. All right. You guys are getting compensated. You're playing in the SEC and you're leaving. All right, so that's how difficult. If Nate Oates, coming off the best season in school history, is losing the majority of his starting roster, it shows you how difficult it is. I think also the Gators' leading scorer there is going to come back. All right, I know it's a very weak draft class, so it's possible, but I think he's going to come back. I think he should come back, quite frankly. And I'm very bullish on Todd Golden. And in fact, I would have, if I was Kentucky, I would have seriously considered him. After I went after the big names, Golden was at the top of my second list.
Yeah, kind of unusual hire there, but they sure loved it up in Lexington, that's for sure.
Well, he's one of theirs.
Yeah, for sure.
Theirs, and they're pumped. And you know what? I think that there's something to be said by hiring your own brand of crazy.
True. True.
And that's what they did.
That's true. All right, Ali, what you got coming up this week on your program? I know you got a couple of shows, podcasts, peek inside the ears. What's going on?
I got a reaction video to Josh Pate's interview with Napier, which, I basically told you my thoughts on that. All in all, good. I didn't love his comments about special teams. And I don't love that it kind of signals that an unwillingness to admit mistakes or failure. But, I've got a couple videos coming out that's parts of my interview with Barrett Sally. And who knows? I'm sure we'll come up with some other video ideas by the end of the
All right. David Miller and Moulton still going strong.
Yep, and we're expanding into Huntsville and Jacksonville and just desperately trying to get into Gainesville. I just
maybe era of UAA. Now they're gonna decide to change their mind here.
I hope so. I really do. I'm begging. I'm begging. I have literally said to them, "Is there an NIL number? What's the number? Just let me know."
We know.
Get yourself a sponsor and buy your way in, right? That's what they're doing.
Well, trust me, got them lined up, and still they're saying no. So,
well, you guys are great as always. I appreciate so much, Ali, your full hour contributions, and David, thank you for joining again. It's always great to have you on. And if I had my way, I'd call the show Sweet and Sweet.
Well, but then that's false advertising, though.
All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night. Thank you. Dave Moulton and Ali Peek Wilbur, two of the best. Glad to have them. And just to remind you folks that our program is brought to you by our sponsors, including this one, and our friends at Meldon Law. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV. But after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Meldon Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion.